In today's episode, we're going to talk about the value of financial planning, the people we serve, and give you 10 traps to avoid if you're a federal employee looking at financial planning. If you're not a federal employee, there's a lot of universal information that could be very valuable. Welcome to the first episode of Financial Planning for Feds. My name is Ed Smith with Valor Wealth Partners. We are dedicated to educating federal employees on how to maximize value from their government benefits by developing and executing a financial plan. We hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get started on looking at what financial planning is and why it's so important for federal employees. Financial planning is the long-term strategies we develop that looks at where we are today, our goals and dreams for the future, and creating a roadmap to be able to get to those goals and dreams. One of the things that we know is that even though you create these strategies, there's going to be problems along the way. It's how you handle the detours that come up and making sure that you have a strategy for when they come up. Fewer than 50% of federal employees have constructed a plan for comfortable retirement. This is one of the biggest goals you're going to have in your life. And we want you to be prepared that you're taking advantage of all of the great resources that you have as a federal employee. But financial planning isn't just about retirement planning. It's about saving for kids' educations, maybe buying a new house. So there's a lot of components to financial planning we have to look at. A lot of it looks at the efficiency of how to tackle a financial problem. But we also have to look at the emotional side to make sure we're just not looking at the numbers, but we're looking at how does it affect you and your family. I want to make sure that the people that we impact are having fun with life and aren't just saving for tomorrow, but we give them permission to spend their money and enjoy it on the things that matter most to them. Let's take a look at the different types of federal employees we serve. The first category is the early to mid-career person. They might have looked at their benefits when they first got hired, but they probably haven't looked at it too much. The problem with this is that the federal benefits change a lot every year, but more importantly, your life changes. Are you doing the same things that you were doing 5 years ago? Probably not. So we need to be able to look at where you are and the tools and resources that are available today versus what you were doing back then. Sometimes this is looking at budgeting, maybe to looking at student loans. Maybe it's maximizing your retirement savings or something else. The next group is pre-retirees. In this group, we see a lot of people really paying attention to what their benefits are and how they can maximize them. It's the first time that most people are taking a real serious look at when they can retire and what they're going to have in retirement. We've partnered with a group called ProFeds that generates a Fed Impact Retirement Report. In the comments section, there'll be a link that you can be able to take a look at what this is and the value it is for you to be able to go to a full day workshop with them. Retired is the last area. Once you've left government service, your benefits don't end. FEHB, Survivor Benefit Plan, your pensions, all of these things are still in place. So we have to make sure that you're working with these long-term to make sure you know what they are and what the benefits to both you and your spouse are. Okay, now let's get to those 10 traps to avoid. And please pay special attention to number 10 because most people fall into this category. We're going to break up these 10 traps into two different areas: basic planning and then federal benefits and maximizing them. Over 20 years of working with clients, I find multiple times people do the same things over and over again. So I created this list to be able to help you to avoid some of the big mistakes that most people make. Hopefully none of them apply to you, but if they are, we want to make sure that you have the tools and resources to be able to work with them. In the comments section, I'm going to have a PDF. It's a simple one-pager that'll have all these 10 listed out. And if you want to get a little bit more in-depth on this whole episode, we're going to have an ebook for you that you can download and reference it back. So you can save both of them, and then you can use them if you don't want to go back and watch the video. And while you're down there, if you hit that subscribe button, that lets us know that we're doing a good job, and the content that we're providing for you is what you want to be able to see. Trap number 1 is paralyzed to take action. Many people don't know where to turn. They've never developed a plan. They've never talked to a professional. So this is a huge and daunting task. How do they start this process? What do they do? Who do they talk to? These are all really big questions, and sometimes it's just too much, so you just stay where you are. The first thing that you need to do is to look at yourself and your family and figure out what you want out of life. Then you can look at where you are and then where you want to go. Making emotional decisions is trap number 2. Now, I just talked about being emotional and enjoying life and having fun. So why would this be a trap? Being emotional is not a trap, but reacting emotionally is. If you've looked at all of your options and you know the plan you want to be able to do, then you're on good grounds. But if you just react from emotion without doing your research, not looking at all of your alternatives, that's where you can fall into these problems. The 2 big emotions that we see from most people are greed and fear. Greed, you get excited about the potential of the future, so you just throw care to the wind and you just go all in. On the other side, fear. You start being concerned about what's happening, maybe the economy, your investments, or whatever is going on, so you close up and you don't want to see what's going on. Either one of these 2 emotions can be devastating to a plan, and I've seen it time and time again. There's a lot of cool tools that you can use to keep these emotions in check. And if you go in with a strategy first, you're able to overcome them in the first place, and when you do make an emotional choice, it's because it's the best thing for you and your family. The number 3 trap is no solid foundation. It's looking at your cash flow and your debt. One of the biggest areas I've seen with federal employees is not having a budget or plan on how they look at their cash flow. Now, I'm not a big believer in creating a budget, but for some people, it's critical. And not knowing where any of your spending is or what your monthly spend rate is can be devastating. More importantly, not knowing what's coming up in the next couple of years and what you're going to have to spend money on. In addition to that, you have to understand where debt is. Now, not all debt is bad. Some of it is really good. Borrowing for a house, maybe student loans because you want to get a higher education or education for your kids. There is good debt out there. But bad debt would be credit card debt. Debt that is you're struggling to pay and you're not doing the things that you want because you're in this sinkhole. If you can manage these 2 areas, you'll have a lot more control over your future. Avoiding estate planning is number 4. And I'm not just talking about the legal documents like wills and trusts. We're talking about the basic stuff like beneficiaries. If you don't have beneficiaries or the correct beneficiaries on your accounts, your estate is in serious trouble. Time and time again, I will come across federal employees that have been working for 30 years and have never put a beneficiary on their TSP. On your quarterly statement, it tells them that there is no beneficiary on their TSP. So they've been seeing this for many years and have never taken action. In addition to your government benefits and your IRAs and things that generally have beneficiaries with them, you have to look at other types of accounts, maybe non-retirement accounts. There's ways to put beneficiaries on them as well. And the last area is those legal documents. For you to be able to control who gets your money or who takes care of kids, who takes care of other things and other people that you might be responsible for. In the next 6 traps, we're going to talk about federal benefit missteps and things that we have seen over and over again that federal employees have done that specifically relate to your benefits. Number 5 is not maximizing your pension. Well, this seems kind of silly because your pension you just get, you pay for it, and then when you retire, you get it. One of the issues with your pension is that people's desire to retire early. If you retire too early, you could be missing out on a huge amount of money. Going to 60 or 62 can be a lot more than retiring at 58. When you see these numbers, it's staggering to people to see what they could be giving up if they just work too many years. But once you get that number in your head that you want to retire at 58, unfortunately, it's hard to get past that. So the earlier you look at the reality of what that benefit is going to be, and you look at the dollar amount of what that will be, then you can effectively plan for the future. When you look at the value of your pension, you have to look at the income generated and how much money it would take to create that money. If we look at $1,000 a month coming in for a pension, that would equate to almost $300,000 saved outside of a pension at a 4% distribution rate. $300,000 that you would have to save. Now, we're not talking about your TSP because you're already saving that. We're talking about going out and saving an extra $300,000 just so you can get another $1,000 in your retirement paycheck per month. That's a lot of money. When you can comprehend this amount of value, then you might start looking and saying, well, if I work a couple more years, there's a huge value. A lot of federal employees go out and work after federal service in maybe their own company, another job, and we have to be able to look and saying, will you be maximizing this other job and get that much more money? If the answer is no, you might want to work for a couple more years. But you want to look at these numbers before you set that number, your retirement number in stone. Another part where people are not maximizing their pension is if we're the very small sliver of people that are in the CSRS and their VCP or Voluntary Contributions Program. This program is huge. If you are a CSRS employee, we definitely need to be looking at this a little bit more. There's two options you can do, either annuitization or turning it into a Roth IRA. Number 6 on our traps, putting your TSP on autopilot. The TSP has a lot of great benefits. Low cost, the life cycle funds, simplicity, but you still need to be on top of these. You want to be able to make sure that you're looking at the life cycle portfolios. And even though they're on autopilot, you want to be able to make sure you're maximizing for you because they change every 5 years. If you're not on the life cycle funds, you have to make sure your contributions and your current allocations are correct, and as the market moves for good or for bad, that you're not putting yourself out of your risk spectrum or that you're allocating too heavily one way or another. Another area is matching. Because people just go and they forget about the TSP, they don't look at how much is being matched. Maybe you started off at a 2 to a 3% number and you weren't maximizing that match because you just didn't have the funds at that point and you need to pay down some bills. But then you forgot to add those extra couple percent in and you're losing a lot of money. The most devastating scenario I've seen with a non-matching of a TSP was a GS15. They had no matching at all. This is almost $8,000 a year that they were missing in federal free money going into their TSP, and the growth of that money as well. So your TSP, you should look at it on a regular basis and making sure that it's doing the right things for you. And if you're looking at the Roth options, you want to be able to make sure that the tax ramifications both today and in the future are what's best for you tax-wise. Overpaying for FEGLI is something I see over and over again, and this is why it's number 7. As your needs change, you have to make sure your coverage changes with you. As you get older, you might have to decrease the amount of insurance because you're not worried about your kids. But on the other hand, you might be looking at options for your survivor benefit plan. So maybe your needs are increasing. It's not as simple cut and dry. As you get older, you have less needs. You have to look at your unique situation and find out what you need. And then you look to find out if your FEGLI is doing the right thing. I've seen times where option B has been double or triple the cost that they were paying for their basic for the same amount of insurance. Number 8 is something that comes up once a year, but unfortunately too many federal employees ignore their open enrollment periods. You should be trying to figure out, has anything changed with your benefits? Maybe your FEGLI, maybe it's the FEHB, maybe it's your dental. At least once a year, you should be using the OPM calculator on FEHB to make sure what you're paying for is what you want. Plans change, and there's a lot of complexity there. The calculator is great, so use it. If you need a little bit of help, there's a lot of resources out there for you. Your survivor benefit plan is an easy out, is the trap number 9. Because it's so easy to check that box when you're getting ready to retire, people just go for it. There's a lot of benefits for the survivor benefit plan, and over we recommend taking it, sometimes for the FEHB, but sometimes it's because of the financial need and maybe for a medical underwriting possibility for insurance. I'm not saying don't take the SBP. I'm saying look at your options. Don't just check the box because it's easy. Check the box because it's the right solution for you. When you're looking at what you want out of retirement and what your spouse needs in retirement, you have to look at all of your resources. And SBP can is only one of them that you might choose. We're finally at number 10, the one you've all been hanging on and waiting for, and I really appreciate you staying on this long, just so you can learn more about these traps to avoid. Number 10 is refusing to explore alternatives. This is probably the number one area I see over and over again with federal employees. It's just so easy to take these benefits at their merit and not look at what else you could be doing. This happens a lot with dental insurance. It happens with life insurance. Health insurance you really can't do too much about. Maybe long-term care insurance. You just take the federal program versus looking at the alternatives. When you look at the alternatives, you can find significant savings and unique programs that are different. I'm not bashing federal employee benefits. These benefits are incredible. You are so lucky that you have this package. What I'm saying is that you need to first look at what you need for you and your family, both today and in the future. Then look at the resources that you have available for you. And the federal benefits is only one resource. Because they're so easy that you get to take it out of your paycheck and you very rarely have to sign up for anything. You don't have to go through underwriting and look at other solutions. Most people just take that road. But if you look at the alternatives that are out there, you might find significant savings that you and your family could use that money for other things, maybe things that are actually fun. So what you want to be able to do is try to figure out what is best for you and your family and then proceed with the benefits. But definitely take a look at outside. There's a lot of great programs out there that you can do it yourself. If you need help, there's plenty of resources that are available for you, and you're having a thought process that makes sure you think of the good and the bad of every option that is out there. Thank you for spending time today learning about financial planning, who we serve, and the 10 traps to avoid. It's been my pleasure to help educate you on these various topics. In our next episode, I want to dive into where to start, what to be able to do, and the tools and resources available for you. Here's a special bonus video that I created back in 2016 for a project. It talks more about who I am versus the things you'll find on our resume. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. Thank you.